All right, I think we are live. At least that's the indicator that I'm getting on my screen here. So let's hop to it. We are in week 16 of a 21-week crash course mastermind on soup to nuts how to make money with real estate, how to build wealth, how to build cash flow, how to build big checks up front, how to make money in the middle, the difference between what's coming in and what's going out, and how to create potentially big spreads on the back end when you get cashed out of these properties, or to keep it on paper if you prefer to not get cashed out. So today's segment is, well, let me kind of bring you forward. So the first few weeks, key element, the foundation for everything is understanding the various strategies. When are we going to wholesale? When are we going to rehab? When are we going to just rent for cash flow? When are we going to use Airbnb or short-term rentals or Verbo? When are we going to use lease options? When are we going to do owner financing? When are we going to take over debt? When are we going to discount mortgages? There's a lot of strategy that goes into it. Not so much that you can't learn it. Honestly, it's not even that much more than a semester of college, right? If I was to put a syllabus together for this, you could get book expertise within a short period of time. Now, actually going out and dealing with all the nuances that come up and becoming an expert at it, where you can make more and more money and scaling a business up, does require a little bit of business acumen that is developed over time. But the net is that you have to have strategy. That's the foundation for everything. So what we went over during the first few weeks of this 21-week semester, if you will, are all the different strategies that will lead to the deals that we're trying to conduct. So when you have strategy in your head, that's one thing. But you have to be able to communicate that strategy in a way that compels people to actually work with you on their properties. So there's a certain approach that we have with these sellers that allows us to be consultative with them, because when you have all of these strategies in your brain, you can literally buy any house from any seller in any market without using any of your own money or any of your own credit. And it becomes a matter of just being consultative with the seller. You're like the Amazon.com, if you will, of real estate, in the sense that whatever that seller decides to do, they are going to do something that we can service and profit from, while at the same time giving them what they want. So it becomes a matter of, does the seller believe in your integrity, your character, your genuineness, your authenticity? That's really important. And then, do they think that you're competent enough? Do you have the expertise that they would want to see in order to conduct business with you, particularly when it involves what's usually the largest transaction for a seller? Sure, excuse me. Which is the sale of their house. Excuse me, guys. Pollen is still pretty heavy out here. So you'll have that strategy in your brain, but you have to have a certain approach with the seller that sets the stage for getting the deal done. So we went through a whole script, and you can find these events in the events tab, or just kind of scroll through the feed and you'll find these events numbered: week 1, week 2, week 3, etc. And what I'm talking about now are the scripts. So you approach the seller with a script where we're essentially learning the price first from them to see if there's an opportunity to get a smash hit home run deal, like a wholesale type deal, or a maybe it's a property that we're going to rehab. But most of the time the sellers do want to get full price, and that's where we can really excel. That's where we can really thrive, because we can give the seller full price, and we can give them a much more money than they're actually going to get if they sell the traditional way, because there's not going to be a realtor commission, there's not going to be any big buyer discount, there's not going to be loan points that we're asking them to pay on a new loan that we're bringing in. There's not going to be crazy inspection concessions. We'll close right away, so that saves them some holding costs over time and some prorations with taxes and whatnot and insurance and utilities. So at the end of the day, they get a lot more money with us. The only thing is they have to be a little bit patient. So that's the trade-off that we ask for. Hey, if we were, the price you want is fair. It's more than what I want to pay in cash. I could buy it for cash for sure, but it's a little more than what I want to buy in cash because frankly, I can get houses from banks and disinterested parties who will sell properties cheap as long as I come in with cash. You don't have to do that on this house. It's a beautiful house. You might as well get everything that you have coming to you on this house, and I can make that happen. You get a lot more money with me than you will with anyone else. But there's a trade-off with that. The trade-off is that you have to be just a little bit patient. And if you can be a little bit patient, then I can give you full price. I can pay your closing costs for you, close whenever you're ready, and it won't be your issue anymore. What I mean by that is I'll make you a monthly payment against that price for a period of time, or I'll rent it from you for a period of time until we exercise an option to buy it during the term of the lease. Is that something that you can live with? And they're either going to be a yes, a no, or a maybe. If they're a no, we push them down the spectrum and we talk to them about the only alternative that's really left, which is if they're trying to sell that house by owner, good luck doing it without paying a realtor commission. All the realtors are represented by buyers. All the buyers are represented by realtors. Dyslexic this morning, I guess. But all the buyers are represented by realtors because it's effectively free for buyers. All the buyers who are loan qualified, owner-occupant, retail-paying folks who are trying to buy the traditional way, they're going to be represented. Why wouldn't they be when it's free? So if a seller's going to fish in that pond, they need to come to the realization that they're going to pay a real estate commission, unless they have a certain level of expertise like we have, but most people don't. They're too busy with their personal lives and their careers to pick up these kinds of skills, so they depend on other professionals, just like you depend on electricians and plumbers and auto mechanics and things of that nature. Not that you couldn't pick up the skills, but you don't. You hire people to do it. And in the case of buyers, it's free for buyers. So they look at it as free anyway. And in that sense, realtors have a monopoly on that buyer that the seller's looking for. So we have a way of monetizing those deals by either getting a realtor license or having licensees on our team that we work with. So that gets you to the point where, if they're a no, we take them down that road, taking monthly payments. If they're a yes or a maybe because they want to get a higher price on their house, then we need to learn certain things about the property. Hey, you got the house free and clear? No, it has a mortgage of X amount of dollars, this and that. And you take them through a whole series of questions, a whole negotiation cascade, which effectively has the seller making us an offer, right? They already offered the house for a certain price. Now we're going to get them to make us an offer where we're making them monthly payments for a period of time until we get them that full price. They hadn't contemplated that prior. So the fact that they're contemplating that, we're going to help them produce an offer. Not that we're negotiating it with them. We're trying to find out what they're willing to do. And we need to find out certain metrics, like what they owe. And then from there, we need to learn, okay, well, what is the best price that we can get? What is the best monthly payment that we can get? What is the longest duration that we could get to pay them off in full? And when do our payments begin? AKA, is there a down payment or not? And we have a particular way of doing that I went through with y'all as well. So after you get through that approach, so now we've got strategy and we've got the approach. Now here comes the questions. Well, are you going to live in this house? No. Okay, well, what if the people you put in there, tear up the house? Are you an investor? How can I get another house if I don't get my money out of this one? That's all the objection handling that we handled several weeks ago. Go through the objection handling and understand how we answer the questions that they have in the optimal way so that we set ourselves up to get these deals or push them further down the funnel. We can profit on any deal. It does not matter what the seller situation is or what the house situation is. We just need to ask the right questions, learn what the seller is willing to do, and plug them into the right slot. Now, in doing that, you're going to come to some kind of an agreement with folks. And either it's going to be a deal that we close on right away, or oftentimes it'll be a deal where the terms aren't really that great for us. So we're going to want to get a little bit of time for us to close because we're going to use that time to line up our buyer and then simultaneously close, where we fund our purchase from the seller out of the proceeds that we get from our buyer. I call that a 90-day close. So we get the best terms we can. We get an agreement back. We went through how to fill out these agreements, and we have 90 days to close. Now, in doing that, that takes us to the topic at hand for today. And the topic at hand for today is you want to protect yourself. You want to protect the fact that you have an agreement. Why? Because you are going to be going out and spending your money, your time, your energy, your resources trying to attract a buyer. You can't have someone pulling the rug out from under you. So when we get an agreement, oftentimes what we'll do is record the fact that we have an agreement on the property so that the seller can't pull a fast one on us, sell the house out from under us, or to set up what I'm going to talk to you about here today, which I call the GOAT hack, the greatest of all time hack, which allows you to step aside, link up a buyer with the seller, even though that wasn't your intention, and still get paid on the house. And oftentimes what we'll do when we get an agreement is we'll record what's called a memorandum of agreement affecting real estate. See it right there, memorandum of agreement. We record that on the property. See, here's the stamped recording. So you can have your lawyer do this, or just have your lawyer do it for you, because different counties will have different protocols on how you do this. You get it notarized. In this case, I think both me and the seller signed off on this. Sometimes it can be unilateral, sometimes it can't. And this becomes recorded on the property. So effectively what you've done is you put a cloud on the title that protects your interest. You can always remove the cloud, so it's not a big deal. The seller shouldn't have an issue with this. They don't even have to really know you're doing it, but it is good to operate in a context of full disclosure and transparency. So I just about always tell them exactly what I'm going to do. So at that point, you now have a cloud on the title. Now you also have a contract, right? That memorandum of agreement is simply stating to the world that I have a contract on this. I have an interest in this property. I have an equitable interest in this property by virtue of the fact that I have 90 days to close on this property, because I have a legal binding contract, a legal binding agreement. Now, in certain places recently, because I just want to be thorough, in Oklahoma, you can't go out. There's new law from, I think, November of last year. You can't go out and market for a buyer on a property that you don't own unless you're a licensed realtor. So you can't sell your equitable interest. Now, there's things that you can do. If you're in Oklahoma, let me know, and we can get on the phone and discuss it. In Illinois, I think you get to do one a year, and then there's a couple other municipalities like Philadelphia and Atlanta that make it a little bit difficult. But the rest of the country, for the most part, we're pretty much good to go. And what we're going to do is we have 90 days, right? So we got to go attract our buyer. Now, I'm going to talk to you next week, or not? Is it next week? Well, in the next several weeks, there's 5 weeks left of this, right? I'll be talking to you about how we market for our buyers. And it essentially amounts to 3 things. One, we are going to use the MLS, the multiple listing service. We'll do a flat fee listing. Everyone should look up flat fee listing. You can put any property in the MLS for a couple $100, and you'll pay a commission, whatever you name, to the agent who brings you the buyer. And usually if they're bringing me a buyer that I'm placing on a lease with an option, meaning the house isn't already sold, I'll tell that realtor that I'll pay them 20% of the down payment up to whatever the commission I name is, 2.5%, 3%, whatever I name. So you'll get help that way, because the MLS, there's quite a lot of folks that are seeing those listings in there, and then there's realtors who have all kinds of people they don't want to drive around because they're not qualified for a loan, but they know they can make a commission because of the way you've set up the deal, that they'd get 20% of the down payment. So you can get buyers there. The second thing we do is, well, I say we, the folks that are in my mastermind, if you will, or my private client group, they're able to use my dispositions manager. And he runs all the marketing for them, and nobody pays for that. They basically get that free as part of the tuition to be part of my group. And and he'll bring buyers to the table as well, pretty much under the same terms. The third thing that we do is we run something called hyperdrive, which I'm going to go through thoroughly in the coming weeks on how we market for buyers. Now, with that three-pronged attack, you are going to get an absolute plethora, particularly in a market like this, where you think the market is hot for buyers who are qualified for loans, where properties are just being on the market and off the market, on the market, off the market, extremely quickly. Fishing in that smaller pool of people who are qualified for loans. Think how much bigger, it's at least 20 times bigger, the market of people who are business owners, or they have some sort of a lawsuit like a divorce or something that's pending, or something that's going to make it so they don't qualify for underwriting. Maybe they just switched jobs, maybe they just switched industries, maybe they need like a year of seasoning of their income or paycheck, having switched jobs before they can qualify for a loan. Maybe there's a credit issue that's pretty simple that needs to be fixed. There's all kinds of things that could potentially prevent someone from qualifying for underwriting criteria. But these people have income, they have money for down payments, and they have kids that they want to go to a certain school district and not grow up in an apartment or grow up in kind of a crappy rental house. So when you have these beautiful houses that are normally owner occupied, you're able to sell to them and help them get through the loan approval process over time, and they'll pay a premium for that, and we can profit big from that huge supply-demand imbalance, meaning a low supply of houses, huge demand for that kind of housing. And that's what we'll do. So when we get as we're marketing, sometimes what happens is we're going for sort of that longer term play, right? But sometimes what happens is you will get a cash buyer to come in. Not necessarily a cash buyer, but it could be equal to cash in the sense that they want to bring in an FHA loan or a VA loan or a conventional loan and just buy it the normal way because they saw it in the MLS and they're perfectly qualified. And you think to yourself, well, they're willing to buy it for this price. I've got a contract to buy it for X for a lower price. Well, I can just make the spread on that. So I'll just share this deal with you. I've had that happen a number of times. This one is a perfect example of that, where I had a seller agree to sell me the house. His lowest cash price was $165,000. It needed a little bit of cosmetics. He was willing to sell it for $165,000, despite the fact that it was probably worth closer to $200,000. But he wanted to essentially be able to get out of Dodge and move out of the country. So I agreed to the $165,000. I told him that I'll try to close it as quickly as I can, but I'm going to need 90 days. And what I did at that point is I put it on the MLS on a flat fee listing at somewhere around $200,000. And I did get a buyer to come in. Now, my intention was to stay in the middle on this because I was going to get the guy to agree to take, like, the way the deal was structured was $165,000, but he was going to get $25,000 up front. I was going to take over his loan that was on there, subject to, which was like $700 or $800 a month or something like that. I would make the cash flow on it because I could rent it for $1,500, and then within a year, I would pay him the remaining $140,000. But the $25,000 would get him along for a period of time. So I knew I could lease option it as well if I could get a big enough down payment, one that made sense. But what ended up happening is I got a cash buyer to come in, but they weren't really a cash buyer; they were an FHA buyer. So now that created an issue for me, right? The issue. Oh, I see all you guys here in the comments. Let me just say hi to you guys here. Hi, Donna. Hey, Ann. Good to have you in here, Ann. Mike, how you doing? What's going on, Bobby? Hey, man, good to have you. And Frank coming in from Austin. So usually it shows me like a number of people next to the live. I actually thought I might have been talking to myself. I guess I'm not. There's quite a few folks on here apparently. So anyway, hello everybody. So here's the thing. I got a contract from a realtor for, I believe it was maybe 195, or it was just under 200, I believe was the contract offer. And but I knew immediately when I saw it that there was a problem. And the problem was this, that the buyer was getting an FHA loan. This is what I mean by it really is helpful to have a coach so they can talk you through these nuances. You're not going to go on YouTube and see a video about the FHA loan qualifying process. If you have a coach, someone who's done it for 30 years, you're going to be able to get through these nuances. Having GPS level navigation to your real estate ventures is really, really important. You'll make mistakes without it, and those mistakes will cost you way more than the pathetic amount of money I charge for this coaching. And I charge a pathetic amount of money because I'm not trying to drive coaching revenue. I don't even take everyone into the program. I'm trying to drive deal flow for later on. I get you guys really good at this. You get the beneficiary of this. I'm here to help you. And most of the time, as you start making a lot of money, you come across deals that might feel too big for you, and then sometimes you'll bring me in as a joint venture partner on it, and then that's where we can make big money together. Well, I'll quarterback the deal. There's no requirement to do that, by the way, no requirement to joint venture with me. But my whole point is this, not to, you should set up a Zoom call if you haven't done that. Set up a Zoom call if you're interested in coaching. But my point wasn't that. My point is this, that you're not going to usually learn through course materials or static videos or things that you buy for a few $100s. You're not going to usually learn these kinds of things. But if you have a coaching relationship where you talk to your coach every day if you want to, you have good counsel, good advice, who can help you get to the other side without hiccups. And this would have been a big hiccup if somebody didn't know this. And that is that for an FHA loan to go through, the person that is selling the house has to have owned it for at least 90 days. And I don't even own it yet, or at the time, I didn't even own it yet. I just had a contract. So I knew that I wasn't going to be able to be the seller in this transaction and essentially flip it because I hadn't owned it for 90 days. So that is where this comes in extremely handy. I cloud the title with an equitable interest in the property. I'm protected. Now I have an agreement that comes in for, whatever it was, close to $200,000. And I have a seller that is looking to net 165 on this. So I go to the seller and I explain that I've found a buyer, and it's great news for you because they are going to just close for cash. You don't have to wait a year to get paid. And the way it's going to work is I'm going to allow them to contract directly with you. You're going to see that the contract is higher than our price because, after all, we talked about that. I'm not running a not-for-profit organization here. There's quite a lot that goes into it. I'm paying the closing costs, I'm paying the realtor commissions, I'm paying other expenses of the transaction, but the contract is for approximately $200, and you're going to net out $165 on this. You got to pay your loan off. You'll get the difference between the $165 and and the underlying loan, which was only like $50-some thousand. So he's going to walk with over $100,000. The dude is smiling ear to ear. He's super happy about that, right? So now all I have to do, I'm protected because I have a cloud on the title. All I have to do is let that buyer go to contract directly with my original seller, and let me show you how this works. So everything goes just like a normal real estate transaction. But what happens is the title company has to order payoff statements from all the lien holders. Well, there's a bank who's a lien holder, and then there's me. Why am I a lien holder? Because I got a lien on the property. So the title company simply needs to get a payoff statement from me. Okay? I told them how much I needed to get on this. Now, I didn't get the full 200. I needed to net my seller out at 165. And in order for me to do that and pay all the expenses of the transaction, so the seller got 165, I was going to get 18 on this, which is what I said the payoff statement was going to be. Okay? So I told the title company that to release my lien, right? In other words, to terminate this, to terminate this memorandum of agreement over here, this sits here, for this to come in and make it go bye-bye, to terminate it so that it's clean, so that they can deliver clean title insurance, they've simply got to pay me out of the proceeds that comes in, the 18 grand. And that, my friends, is precisely what occurred. Here's the back page of the settlement statement. I don't know how clear that is, but you can see the yellowed in area. That's me getting 18 grand on this. And you can see the seller down at the bottom there, if I can point it out, is getting 113. And he didn't. That's because he had to pay like 50 something on his mortgage, so he didn't get to keep all 165, but he got over 100 grand on it. So the guy was extremely happy. So the net of this is that when you use this technique and when you have the guidance that helps you navigate through what appears to be a fairly complicated technique, but it's really not when you understand it. Like if you listen back to this a few times, I think you'll be able to follow what I'm saying. Then you are in a position to get a lot more deals done, because let's face it, let's say you're a wholesaler, let's say you're a rehabber, let's say you're the typical one-trick pony investor where you're just working on the price metric, and somebody has a house worth 200. Well, you probably aren't going to come in with 165. There's not enough money in it for you, right? Usually you got to get things at like 70 cents on the dollar. That's more than 80 cents on the dollar. Okay, so I basically paid more than 80 cents on the dollar. I still walked away with 18 grand on it because I knew what to do. Most people in the wholesaling world would have walked away from that deal. They wouldn't have known what to do. They wouldn't have even been able to consummate the transaction anyway, because you can't. They wouldn't have been able to put all this together. So it's important to learn a robust strategy and have the guidance along the way that helps you navigate all the different elements that come into play, the nuances that come into play in a real estate transaction. So let me just kind of recap that for you real quick, so you can follow the process. So you get an agreement with the seller. When you get that agreement with the seller, you make sure you have enough time to close so that you can line your buyer up. Okay, so the first piece of this is we get an agreement with the seller, and we have 90 days to close minimum. Then we record that the fact that we have an agreement on the property, a memorandum of agreement affecting real estate. In other words, we put a lien on the property, we put a cloud on the property. You have a lawyer do that for you. Okay? That protects your interest in the property. Then we do our marketing. You can use me, you can use whatever you've learned or whatever you're aware of, but you're going to go out and find your buyer. And when your buyer appears, if it appears that it's better for you to step aside and allow that buyer to link up directly with the seller, because remember, we couldn't do a simultaneous close here. FHA isn't going to allow me to be in the middle of this transaction because they want the ownership seasoning. So in that particular case, I was able to get paid in a different way by eliminating this memorandum of agreement affecting real estate. So I allow the buyer and the seller, both of whom I found on my own, to connect directly, leaving me out of the picture. But I'm not really out of the picture because I'm protected by the cloud that I have on the title. So the title company then orders the payoffs. They order the payoff from the bank, and they order the payoff from me. I give them the payoff, and then I give them a termination so that they're protected, so that now they cleaned off the title with the proceeds from the FHA loan, and they can issue title insurance on it. And then little old me walks away with a check for 18 grand. Look, you do these on bigger properties. I'll show you another one here real quick if I have it. Which one is this? Is this the one for? Let me see. I have another one here. I was going to show you guys. I don't know if this is the same one. Let's see. What's the payoff on this? Hold on one second. These are all sticking together. I thought I did. Do I not have that? Oh, I have it right here. Okay, so that was that one. This was the other one I was going to show you. You do these on higher end properties. So think about doing this on a $1.5 million property. You don't have to have a very big spread on a $1.5 million property. A wholesaler, at 90%, you get a deal on it where it's 90% of the value. Wholesalers are going to walk away from that. Not me. This one's 45 grand, right? I get 45 grand on that, basically doing the exact same thing. It's a low percentage on a high price. But this will allow you to make a hell of a lot of money in real estate. It'll allow you to do a lot more deals than you'd otherwise be able to do. And if you want to get in position to do that, you can, you can use this Facebook group, but I'm just telling you right now, it's really, really hard to be successful unless you have that hand holding and that guidance. So I'll be available to y'all if you want to jump on a Zoom call. I think you guys know where the link is to schedule a Zoom call, or just everybody I think that's in this group, we're friends on Facebook. If we're not, make sure you friend request me, and we can get on a Zoom call and kind of go through what this business could look like for you, what it would entail financially, and what kind of commitment you'd have to make, how fast you could progress, and what life is going to look like when you have time and money on your side down the line, because you learn some skills, you put some skills in your brain, you invest it in yourself, and you have somebody pulling you along to get you to the other side so that you can make money. So I'll be available for that. And then I will, if anybody is watching this on replay, if you have questions on any of this, go ahead, drop them in the comments. I'll take a look a little bit later, and we'll try to get you squared up. Okay, so next week we are going to begin talking about marketing. Okay, so we've got our strategy, we've got our approach, we've got our objection handling, we've gone through the different agreements that we use, the paperwork element, the contracts, and now we're going to talk about how do we scale our business up, marketing for sellers and for buyers actually. Okay, so that'll round us out over the next several weeks, but next week is going to be an overview on that. So if I don't talk to any of you during the week, I hope you have a wonderful weekend and a wonderful week, and I look forward to seeing you on the live next Saturday. All right, folks, everybody have a good one. I'm going to go ahead and end it now. Take care.